Let's go!
Welcome back to Pace Pals, everyone. We have a great interview in store for you today. We have Collins VG with us. You can find Collins at twitch.tv/Collins_VG, Twitter Collins__VG, and then YouTube Collins_VG. Collins, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to do this.
We're excited to have you on here. Zias, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty great, Gio. I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk to Collins as well. I feel like Collins has a lot of background in Mario and commentary and has been around the scene for a while, so can definitely provide some great insight.
True, a true veteran of the game. Collins, you do 1670 and 120, primary focus on 120. And you're on the leaderboards at 137th place right now with a 146.21, which is an awesome time. GG's for that. How long have you been playing Mario at this point?
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think I started in December of 2018. I want to say it was something along something about that, approximately around those lines. I was initially going to, and the only reason I remember specifically is because I really wanted to speedrun, and I was going to reward myself in college after the semester ended, when I was on break, and I was going to learn 16 star, and then I just couldn't wait. So actually, I think it was closer to October because I remember not waiting. I remember being like, I'm not going to wait, and I actually ended up learning 16. But I actually tried to learn 16 in 2015.
What happened?
But I was playing on an LCD television, and I didn't understand the concept of like input lag and stuff like that. And I was playing on like original hardware, so like it was like I pressed A and he jumped like 3 seconds later. So I never actually, like, my biggest regret is like I wish I had just downloaded an emulator or something, because I actually probably would have stuck with it a lot. I would have stuck with it actually and like been playing a lot longer. But no, I think it was like November, maybe like 2018. It was around like Halloween, I think, is when I started learning 2018. And I've been off and on ever since. I think a lot of people that would probably be watching this would know that I've been off and on. But yeah, I'd say October 2018.
But hey, that puts you at half a decade, 5 years as of this past fall. That's pretty crazy.
I didn't really think about that.
Is that a horrible thing for me to do just now? I'm sorry.
Yeah, existential crisis. Yeah, no, I was like 22, I think, or 23.
Wow.
I think I was 23. Yeah, or maybe 24. I don't really remember, but yeah, it was a while ago. It was definitely a long time ago. It was a very different period of my life when I started versus now. So
did you? So you said you were playing on LCD TV before, and then you didn't download an emulator. So when you actually started learning in 2018, was it on like a CRT or?
It was on another LCD television, except I just really like stuck. I forced myself to stick with it that time.
Oh,
Nice.
And I just was like, whatever, I'm gonna push through it. Yeah, and then I ended up doing my first ever 16 star run on like a flat screen, just regular television. It was one of those like those cheap ones you get from Target or whatever. Yeah. And it was like a 50-inch television or something like that, like something ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember I timed the run with the timer on my cell phone.
That's a pro move. And I did that on my first run.
I didn't even record it because I knew that I wasn't gonna like submit it or anything like that. So I ended up keeping that. I ended up keeping like record. I don't have like record of it or anything. I mean, hindsight's 2020. I wish I had, but I think it was like I want to say it was like a 29-minute time or something, or maybe like a 32-minute time.
Wow.
Something like that. Like I actually put in effort to like really learning how to do the run beforehand.
I'm pretty sure my first ever 16 star one was an hour and 18 minutes. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I think I had like several game overs.
Like, you can like push through most of it, and then you get to MIPS, and then you just shut down.
Yeah.
Like and then like BLJs. I remember BLJs taking me like literally 10 minutes, like my first ever run. And then my next one was like a 25, and then it was like a 24, and then it was like a little slower than that. And I think I hit the sub 20 in like 2 months, like if I remember correctly.
That's crazy.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I just had no life. I was off. I was on college break, so I just played all day every day. So it's not that impressive. Like I don't think I progressed really particularly quickly in Mario. I just had a lot of time, and at that period. So
modest. He was on Prodigy track.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's getting those times like on that like display with that input delay too. I mean, like, I guess you can kind of just get used to it the more and more you play, but like still doing it on like that kind of setup is pretty crazy to be able to pull that off.
I don't remember, but I think I switched to CRT like pretty shortly after that first run. Like I'm like
okay.
fairly certain because I actually still have the television. I actually just set it up the other day because it has a the CRT has a VCR in it, and I've been wanting to like mess around with some. I found like a piece of lost media, and it was on VHS, and then I was like, dude, I gotta bust out the CRT so I can watch it on VHS, and I'm gonna like rip it and like put it on YouTube so I can like share that with like the lost media. I'm a huge lost media fan.
What is
Just,
What do you mean by lost media?
It was previously uploaded to the internet, and has since been taken down, and no one's been able to find it. Like no one has record of it.
Oh shit.
That's
so.
How did you How did you find it?
I just found it on eBay. I just saw some like lady like selling it. Like it was just one of those things where like it's not like a holy grail piece of lost media, but like people have been like talking about how they haven't been able to watch this in a long time, and that the YouTube video has been deleted. And so I just looked and I found it. Like it wasn't super hard or anything, but no one's gone to the effort of like buying the VHS and then like like uploading it or like ripping it to like DVD and then putting it on a computer. So like I have a buddy that does like he has his own VHS like company. He puts like he puts like modern films on like VHS, and like they put them out. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Kung Fury. Like have you ever seen that movie? Yeah. So my buddy did the VHS run for Kung Fury.
Oh,
so
no
like
shit.
That's
yeah,
crazy.
so like that's like what he does. Like he does that kind of stuff. So like so he has all the technology to do that. So he's helping me like rip it. I switched to the CRT to go off of a crazy tangent. I switched off of the CRT like pretty shortly after, but yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know anything about lost media. That feels like a rabbit hole I need to dive down.
I think it's actually it's like a really like it's a natural progression of like the speedrunning like interest, like hobby, honestly, because it's like everybody has that like, oh, like Mario is so nostalgic, I love that game, and I love Zelda, Ocarina of Time, I just have really good memories playing when I was a kid. And then it turns into like, remember the show that I watched when I was a kid? And then like I wonder if I could watch that again because I love playing the games I love playing the games I used to like, so I want to watch the shows. And then it's like, oh yeah, no, only the French dub of like season 2 is available on the internet, sorry. Like good luck. So I really think if you're into like, because I feel like most people, I mean, maybe not the younger like crew, like the younger like generation of like the Mario runners, but I feel like the like people closer to like our age maybe have started speedrunning because they were like into the game, like into N64 and stuff when they were like young, like I was like I was super into like Mario Kart 64 is my first game, like Ocarina of Time was the first game I ever beat. I was like 5, I was like 1999, like 2000. I was obsessed with it. So then, yeah, I'm like very into nostalgia, like heavy into nostalgia. And like, I love indulging in like those kind of things that made me happy when I was a kid. So that's what like led me into speedrunning. And then like that lost media, like rabbit hole, like, tangentially, of course.
No, it makes sense. I mean, that's why I got into Mario speedrunning, because I played SM64 as a kid. And like same thing with, I think the first game I ever truly speed ran or tried to, I didn't get very far with it, was Donkey Kong Country for SNES. But that was cool. Like, because I loved playing that as a kid. It was so much fun.
Yeah. I think like the first game I technically ever speed ran was Ocarina of Time, but I made up my own route like as a kid.
I love that.
Like I feel like I always tell people this. I feel like speedrunning is a natural progression of like enjoying a game, because you can only beat it casually so many times. So then eventually like you invent a challenge run, or like you try to beat it as fast as you can. At least like that's how like I always thought of it when I was a kid. Like I was like, oh, I beat Ocarina of Time like a million times, like what do I do now? And I was just like, okay, I'll just beat it faster. So then I just tried to beat it as fast as I could, no guide, you know what I mean, like that kind of stuff. So like that, I mean, I wasn't like hessing or anything, but like I was like, I know what I mean, I was trying to like I was trying to like beat the game. I didn't like invent the wrong warp, but
right,
but it was that's just kind of, I feel like it's a very natural progression for like, especially like you know, when we were younger, you know, in like the early 2000s and like the late 90s, like we didn't have millions of games accessible and available like immediately. Like, you know what I mean? Like I could beat a game now and I just immediately move on because there's a million other games I have to.
Right.
But back in the day, it's like, dude, I was 5. I got like 2 games. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like that's it.
I think like for me, I mean, this same exact thing. It was like I played it Donkey Kong Country a million times. There was a day where I stayed home. I was sick or whatever, and so I couldn't go to school, and so I just like basically sat in front of the TV and played it. Like I beat it like multiple times in a row, and they have on the file select screen like a timer, like an in-game timer thing, and so it was obviously like, all right, well, let's see how low I can get that. And then I thought I was like all sick, and then years later I discovered like actual speedrun times, and I was like, oh man, I suck, dude. I'm so bad.
Yeah. I find the old like speedrunning history stuff like really, really interesting and cool. Like back on like, you know, like like Mario runs, you know, .com, or like the like, you know, people like just posting on these old forums like, you know, their 1080 snowboarding times, and like no one had proof of like the time they got, but like why would you lie about it sort of thing. Like so everybody just believed everybody. I find that really interesting. Like I said, I just feel like it's a really natural progression of like enjoying a game. So yeah, I love that stuff.
I want to.
So you.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna ask a little bit more about OOT because
Do it.
I'm pretty interested in that background.
Take us there.
So how long did you kind of try to tackle OOT for, and you know, compare it to something like, I don't know, I'd say you probably have more experience in SM64 as a speedrun.
Oh yeah.
You know, what kinds of things are notably different about the two games, and just kind of like that, you know, what put you off of OOT, I guess, like that kind of thing.
I always say this. I think that I love the idea of speedrunning Ocarina of Time, but I hate actually doing it. I will say that I actually recently, Saren of CCG, we got into a call and we spent all day together, and he taught me like the most up to date like OT route for defeat Ganon.
You're back.
So I actually have been practicing that.
Let's
so
go.
I will be like returning to that. Eventually, I'm not exactly certain. I've like had other priorities and stuff, but in the background I've been playing that. Zelda, like OT and Mario, like SM64, get really looped together because they're both like iconic SM64 or N64 games, and they're both very popular speedruns, probably the most popular of all time, to be honest. And I think there's this, it's such apples to oranges. It's like you can't even really compare them as games. But the biggest thing is Mario is movement and Zelda is tricks. Like yes, you have to be able to like maneuver Link in such a certain way. Like you have to know that like if it takes more than 4 rolls to get to a certain location, then it's faster to backwalk. You need to know like how to side hop, and of course like getting angles and like holding like ESS position and all that kind of stuff. It's like the movement is like important, don't get me wrong, but it's all about like the tricks. Like it's all about the frame perfect, like you know, pause buffers, and you know, it's really good that Zelda lends itself to that style of play because of like the fact that you can advance 0 frames during a pause, the fact that it's 20 FPS compared to Mario's 30.
I don't think I knew that.
Say again?
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, about the menu.
No, about that it was 20 FPS as opposed to 30.
Yeah, it is 20 FPS.
That's wild.
And like it's really different. And it feels different. And again, like, you know, we pause buffer and carpetless now, and you're not only is it 10 FPS more, but you're every time you pause, like you can't just advance 0 frames in Mario. Like, you're always advancing a frame. So like if you're 1 frame off, like in OOT, you could pause and unpause really quickly and hope that you just get that 1 frame. And if you don't, you still have that buffer of like, well, I didn't actually advance a frame. But in Mario, it's like, no, like you're advancing a frame, whether or not you like it. Maybe 2, maybe 3, you know? And like, so it's really interesting in that aspect. I've talked to really high level Mario speedrunners about OT, and I've talked to really high level OT runners about SM64, and both will say that the other game is harder. Like you will not get a consensus. Like it's actually pretty cool because like you would think that people would be like, no, like my game is harder,
right?
But like Cheese thinks OT is harder, than SM64, for example, or says it's almost exactly like, you know, comparable. And then like Lozut's like one of the like OT runners, short category guy. He's like amazing. He's like the Weegee of like OT in my opinion. He'll say SM64 is way harder. Like he has a 17, 30, and 16 star, and he's like, that's way harder than anything I've done in like OT.
Wow.
It's just like, it's so completely like different. Like you can't really compare it. And that's why I think you get overlap between people that play SM64 and OT, but you don't have someone who's really, really good at both.
Yeah.
Like Cheese arguably is probably the best at both. Well, I would say actually unequivocally the best at both.
Mm-hmm.
But he was never like super in record contention for OT.
Yeah.
100%. Not even close. And it's simply because like you can't do both at a high level at the same time. It's impossible.
I mean, I feel like both take up so much time and commitment to get to that level that there's physically not enough time to commit to both.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is.
Yeah.
Like you got to take a break from one or the other. And like of course there are guys like Zion, like Saren, like me, like that have taken the time to learn like OT and like have like okay times, like nothing great, but like okay. And but we're way better at Mario, like just way better at Mario. But I also think Mario lends itself better to like it's more satisfying to practice, and it's more satisfying to like do runs because you can finish runs in Mario, which is another one of my issues in OT. If you mess up a wrong warp, it's over. Like you're done. The run is over. There's no saving it. Mario, if you just totally royally screw up in TTM, you can still practice the rest of the run and finish it out if you want. You know, like you don't have to just stop.
And there's almost like you can isolate the really shitty parts of your SM64 and like, okay, you're upstairs, it falls apart, but then you can be like, all right, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna have a great tippy and see if I can like get my best tippy ever or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if you mess up like a manip like early on in OT, it's just like it's over. Like
Rip.
like you got to just reset. And also I will say too, the 3-minute intro, like before intro skip, was like a big motivator for me to not play OT because of how annoying it was. Because like it's a hard like defeat Ganon like at like the higher level or like even intermediate, like it's still a hard run. And like resetting and just watching a 3-minute intro cutscene every single time is like insane. I mean, like people complain about the 50-second SM64 cutscene. Imagine 3 minutes. Imagine how much time like Narcissa and like Torge and like ZFG like watch that in Clint Stevens like watch that intro. I mean, like it's got to be like days of just the intro. Like it's nuts. Like
so,
it's super long.
Where do you fall on SM64 intro skip then?
So silly. It's so silly.
What a question.
Why? It's so stupid. No, never. I would never advocate for the intro skip.
So your threshold is somewhere between 50 seconds and 3 minutes then.
my threshold is that there is no point in Mario at the beginning of the run where we could actually save quit and start where you take control of the character. OT, you can immediately, when you gain control of Link, save quit, restart, and you're in the exact same spot, exact same angle. Everything's exactly the same. All the inputs to get out of the treehouse are all exactly the same. Nothing has changed. That to me is viable because we're playing on the original hardware. We gain control exactly where we normally would have gained control. Whereas Mario, we can't save at Lakitu. We can't save immediately there. We would either have to skip Lakitu, or we'd have to play on external hardware and pop right out of the pipe. No way would I ever encourage a game to switch to external hardware for many reasons, but the biggest one probably being accessibility, because it's already expensive to do this on console anyway. And let's be real, not many people are taken seriously if they're not playing on console. Right. Whether or not you like that, I personally say the more accessible the game, the better. I want people to be able to play this game if they find it fun. And if you're good at VC, amazing. If you're great at emulator, good for you. I love that. But let's be real. You're not making like Mario big bucks, big money moves in Mario if you're not on console. That's a whole separate thing from intro skip, but I don't ever want to stray away from the original hardware piece.
No, that's fair. I think those are really good considerations. And obviously in my question, I asked you about just the time, like that didn't even take into account super valid considerations that you pointed out. I mean, those are all really good points.
Yeah, and then like, what are the mods gonna do? Because I was a leaderboard mod for like over a year. I'm not going and untiming all the, you know what I mean? Like that's crazy. The fact that they did it in OT to begin with is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I think it was essential for like the preservation longevity of their game as a speed game for sure. But I really think the biggest piece for me with the intro skip question is that we'd have to do a ROM, and I'm not, but we can't. We got to be able to play on some sort of hardware that was meant to be, that the game was initially meant to be played on. Emulator, you know, it's tough because of course we all own our legal copies of the game, so we can emulate. You know,
no legal issues here.
Nintendo, don't look into it.
So, but VC, for example, that's an official release. Like that's an official way to play the game, as is N64. If we had to make a ROM hack, if we were like, hey, like, you know, K's, you know, pop us out of the pipe, you know, 2 seconds after we hit the on switch, that's kind of losing the integrity of like playing the actual game. Like we're no longer playing the game. It's now modified. If you want to run intro skip, by all means, go ahead. Aussie Adam did it. Lamas did it for a while. They all did they went back from their ROM hack like days, you know, a couple of years ago, and then they were like, you know what, we'll take a break from ROM hacks and we'll do 16 star. And they all PB, they all, you know, whatever, great. They got way better at vanilla, but they did intro skip, so it's not accessible. It's not, you can't do it can't put it on leaderboard, of course, which is fine. You know, they knew that going into it, of course. But,
and I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not competing for a really, you know, top spot, the leaderboard is more for you. It's more for like, oh, like this is my own place. Like it doesn't actually mean anything unless you're like truly competing for record. Okay, that's like a different conversation.
Yeah, and like the thing is, that's the same thing with OT. Like if you're within like, don't quote me, if it's like you're within like 10% of the record or something, like you cannot do emulator. Like your emulator time won't be considered, which I think it's fair. I honestly, like, there's a lot that could be taken from the mods of both games. Like I think that putting everything on one leaderboard and then taking that into consideration with emulator may or may not be a good idea. I like the way that we have it now, personally. I think the leaderboard for Mario is super organized and it makes sense. And OT, not so much. I think that OT is a little convoluted in terms of like what they've decided to do. That's a whole nother conversation. It's a whole different conversation. But yeah, intro skip, I want to keep the integrity of the like official release and the official, like, you know, platform. I want to maintain that.
And like, all of that discussion aside, like all the considerations and stuff that you brought up, on like a realistic level, it's like 50 seconds. Like, do we really need to save 50 seconds? Like, check your phone. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, be a normal person. Scroll Twitter.
Here's the thing, dude. Like, I am personally of the opinion that while it is fun to break the game as much as possible and to get that time down as low as you possibly can get, you have to take into consideration the longevity of your game. And if you are doing things that like you have to, in order to play the game, you have to jump through hoops, whether that's learning like ridiculous stuff that takes like hundreds of hours of like knowledge to like even begin, or like dozens of hours to set up, or hundreds of dollars to spend, like you're gonna see like that decline. The reason that Mario 64 and 16 stars is such a good run and such a long standing speed game is because of the fact that you can learn the route in like a day, like literally one day. You can learn it beginner, intermediate, or hard, or expert if you really want. And you can download the emulator P64 1.6 and you can boot that up with your legal copy, of course, within 30 seconds. Like, you can download all that and get it all ready to go. If you really wanted if someone says, I really want to do a Mario 16 star speedrun today, and I've never played it before, you can absolutely do it.
Yeah.
You're not doing that with OT. You are not. No. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about 64 is that you can do that. Super Mario 64 is you can do that. You can easily do that. And I want to keep it that way.
I mean, I think we talked to Bob about that, but that's why, in my opinion, it's one of the best speed games, because the barrier to entry is almost non-existent, but then the ceiling for, you know, skill level is, I mean, it has like the widest margin or delta between the two. Like, you can become so unbelievably technically capable at this game. You know, look at the top runners; they do this crazy shit all the time. But then to your point, it's like you want to learn how to speedrun it here. You know, give me a day and you'll be able to finish the 16-star run.
Watch Pull Up 16-star tutorial. You could learn that in a couple hours. Like that's what I did. I mean, it took me like a couple days to learn like the route. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know, or a day to learn the route to actually get the tricks. You know, a couple days or whatever. Yeah, it's a whole thing. The intro skip discourse is super funny, and I love that it pops up every once in a while.
Yeah.
And like once it pops up, I'm like, you're a kid. You're a kid. I know it. I know you're a child. Like I know you're bringing it up because you know I want to skip the intro. No patience because you're 11. It's fine. Like, I'm joking.
Thinking about it, you know, it's been a while since the intro skip discourse has come about in the community.
Hey man,
so
without elaborating, I'd much prefer that discourse over recent.
I gotta hit up GTM for some juicy community drama. Intro skip coming back.
We got you, GTM. GTM, come on the pod. I do want to shift gears a little bit. You are very well known within the community for a lot of reasons, but particularly commentating. You've done comms on a lot of different events. How long have you been commentating?
I started commentating. The first ever event that I did was the Ruby Mill 70-star, the tournament, which was to this day the largest Mario tournament to ever take place.
Really?
Which I take pride in because I was there for a lot of it, if not almost all of it. And I love J Mill. Like he's one of my really, really good friends, one of my first friends in the Mario community. And obviously Jack or Ruby, he's not around as much anymore. But that's where I met most of my friends in Mario to start it off. That's where me and Badrona started to kick it and hang out. So this was probably 2019. It was a little bit after. So I did 16-star. I got the sub 20. I did what I wanted to do with it, and then it kind of took a back seat. I played a little more Pokemon Snap. I took some more time off, and I returned in the summer, I believe, of 2019. And that's when I really started to get into the commentary scene. So it was that my first ever commentary match was the Ruby Mill 70-star tournament. And I want to say, I don't remember the specific match, but I think Rigby was playing in the first match that I ever commentated. And the first match that I ever commentated, I believe, was with Badronis. If it wasn't Badronis, he was my second. And I think my first might have been solo because I think they didn't have anybody to do it.
Oh,
so I think it was solo. I'd have to go back and check like the archives, but no, I'm pretty sure it was solo.
That's kind of a big lift, solo commentating job.
Yeah.
I still prefer it to this day.
Really?
Wow.
I can talk. I mean, you guys know. I mean, this thing will be like 3 hours. I could talk all day. You know what I mean? Like, especially at the beginning when it's fun. Like when commentary, like, you know, when commentary is like new and like interesting and like, you haven't seen all the stuff that you may have seen like 4 or 5 years later. There not much really surprises me anymore when I see it. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that!" I'm like, "Yeah, I saw that like 4 years ago." Like, you know, like it's still cool. Don't get me wrong, but like, you know, I've been there, done that. But yeah, when it's fresh and interesting, like I was like all about doing it by myself. Like, I thought it was really cool. I don't know. It just felt like a very like you're like almost in like the captain's chair. You know what I mean? Like you get to see like every angle, and yeah, I thought it was super fun as a solo commentator. I still do.
I feel like I don't see a lot of solo. I feel like they're almost all, you know, pairs or trios now.
Yeah, I think that, well, for that one, the thing was, it was, like I said, it was the biggest event ever. So you had matches going every day, multiple times a day, different time zones, you know, so on and so forth. So there were matches where there was no commentary, like just,
yeah,
just boot up and you're good to go. So like, you know, it really like, it was a different era in the sense that like not everybody also wanted to be a commentator, not to sound old or like haggard, but now it's like the coolest thing. Like everybody wants to do commentary, but back in the day, no one wanted to do commentary. Like nobody wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Like it was like, no, I don't feel comfortable, or like there's no point because no one's going to watch the races. But like there was a point where like doing comms was like not the thing. Like it wasn't the move. And it was only when Simply started to really kick off on the comms during his own tournaments that people started to really become interested in it. And it sort of kicked off. It sort of kicked off from there. So no, you had a lot of people just doing solo comms, sometimes none. It really depended on, was J Mill available? Was Jack there? If not, okay, can you find a buddy? Nope. All right, I guess you're going solo.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but that was for that tournament specifically. But sometimes in the old GSA days, because what got me into commentary and wanting to do commentary in general was watching the GSA leagues. Every Monday night, I think it was, I would make dinner and sit down like it was football, and I would
love
just
that.
watch, like I would watch D whatever and cheese race like 16 star. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so that's what I thought that was super interesting because it was Badronis and it was electric. That's who I think when I think commentary duo, like when I think the OGs, those guys are the OGs to me because those were the guys I was listening to, and I was like, yo, these guys they're knowledgeable. They're like, well, one of them is like the color, right? Like electric is like the crazy guy, and he's like the one that's like super fun and like he does all the crazy voices and whatever. And then Badronis is like analytical and he knows like what he's talking about when it comes to like, so they were to me like listening to them, I was like, those are like the guys, like those are the ones that I really want to like emulate. So the fact that like not only am like able to commentate with them, but I'm like good friends with them now, it's really cool because I like actually like grew up like in Mario, like watching them and never talked to them. I mean, I didn't speak in anybody's chats or do anything. I was just watching. I was just a viewer, So that's kind of like there have always been the duo like commentary thing, but yeah, for that Ruby Mill tournament specifically, yeah, like it was all it was whatever, whoever could do it whenever you could do it. It was fair game.
Yeah, it's interesting you highlight the dynamic of like having a color guy and then the analytical guy, because obviously that's the sports model and that's what works on like a larger marketable scale, whatever. But I know you prefer solo. If you are in a pair, do you see yourself as more of the color or the analytical play-by-play caller?
I think it sounds really funny. I see myself now as like not in a personality sense because it's gonna sound really bad. And I don't know how many people understand this reference, but I figure myself as like the Joe Rogan now. Like when Joe Rogan goes back to do like UFC fights, where like he doesn't really care, but he's been around forever, so like people just kind of let him do whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how I feel now, where like I don't really have to like try to do it because I've just been doing it for so long that like I do both. Like it depends, and that's how I always like go into it. Is I always think of like who am I going with, and I've commentated with probably everybody except for Simply. He's the only person I've never commentated with. But everybody else I can think of that does commentary, I've done commentary with pretty much everybody else, or at least it does it like consistently, But I'll go into it. If it's Wes Dogg, why would I try to out Wes Dogg, right? Like and from a like an actual me thinking perspective too. Well, he's just the guy to do that, but also I'm a lot more knowledgeable about the game. But if I'm with Badronis is way more analytical and way more knowledgeable than me. So then I got to kind of be funny and like just joke around and do the color.
Yeah.
When what gets tough is that it's what about when I'm with like back in the day, like when I would go with Electric, because me and Electric were like on the same gameplay level and the same color level, so we really had to rip off each other. I think the best way to go about commentary and really the only way to like resonate with people nowadays is like to just keep it really casual and like have a really I treat it like it's a podcast. Whatever I'm thinking is whatever I'm saying.
Yeah.
And like certain gameplay points, like of course, like are important. Like let's say I'm doing I've done a GDQ run, right? I've done commentary for a GDQ run. Yes, I need to be like very like analytical and very like, yes, so beef here is entering this painting, which is going to save us 1 second over blah, blah, blah. Because like there's 20,000 people watching that have never seen the game before or never seen that, you know what I mean? They're very new to the game. But if I'm doing like Zeus's tournament, there's 200 people watching. Every single one of those 200 people has not only like watched a ton of Mario, but they've also played the game and they're probably pretty good at it. Or good at it, or knowledgeable enough. So I don't need to sit there and explain what Canonless is or how to do MIPS clip or whatever. Like you got to like really like cater it to like, you have to know your audience and you have to know who you're going with, like commentary wise. But I think nowadays, because there's not many races anymore, like just straight 1v1 races. They don't really exist nearly as much as they used to, because that was the only meta back in the day. There was no LTA at all. So now the new LTA format, you kind of have to just wing it, because you can't possibly watch 7 screens at the same time and commentate analytically every single one. You have to like keep an eye on all of them approximately, but you're talking about one, and it's probably the one that's farthest along. If it's the farthest along but it's not really alive, then you got to go to the next one that's alive, that's the next farthest along. So it's actually like completely different, like case by case. So it's hard to determine like when I go in, like what am I gonna do? And that's why I said, like, at this point, I'm just like the Joe Rogan guy. Like, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm there. Like, it's funny. Like, I enjoy like just hanging out and being there. At pace, it was very interesting. It was very different. But at first it was a little weird, but then I just kind of went about it the same way. Like, okay, I'm with Warning Track. Like, Warning Track is very like very professional and very, like, he's like sticking right to the script, and he's
buttoned
like,
up.
yeah, he's very buttoned up.
Yeah.
So that's for me. I'm like, okay, like time to relax, take it easy. I'm gonna try to get him to laugh as much as I can. Like, I want to break him. Like, I want to get him to break, because I think that'd be like a funny dynamic. And so that's kind of like, it's just totally different every time you do it, which is what's fun about it.
So you mentioned like at pace was weird. Is it because it was live? Like, what's different about a live event than, if you're at home in your own normal setup?
Yeah, so like, of course, the environment being different obviously is like a big thing. But that I wasn't really as concerned about. It's the fact that not only can you hear yourself, but you're aware of the fact that the runners can hear you too.
Oh, I hate that.
Because there's plausible deniability, right? Like, you could be like, in a race, like just playing, and like you don't have the commentary on, or your headphones are on, or like whatever, or everything's muted, and you're just not paying attention, or maybe you're listening to your own stream. And we know that sometimes people listen to the commentary, but there's like the plausible deniability. Like, well, they probably aren't listening to me right now, or if they are, like, they're not really paying attention. But at pace, like, you echo, like you can hear yourself, like you say something, and there's like that slight little delay, and it's like it's really loud.
Oh God.
And that like everyone's listening, because if you can hear yourself, they can hear you. And if you're wearing headphones, which we are, and we can hear, and I can hear on the outside through my headphones, they're wearing the same headphones and they're on the same stream. So I know for a fact they can hear me. So it goes from like this thing where it's like, okay, I don't want to be like a dick, and like, you know what I mean? And be like, well, you see, Liam really messed up here. Like, but then you're like, but I have to, because that's kind of like, and I had a really interesting conversation with Liam about it. I met Liam for the first time. We never really had interacted outside of like Pokemon Snap, which is like a whole different thing from years ago that maybe not many people like super remember. But so basically I met him through Mickey, because me and Mickey and Aria hung out a lot at pace. It was really, really amazing people, like super great people. I really like them a lot. So obviously Mickey and Liam are super tight. And Liam walked over to Mickey, and I was talking to Mickey, and Mickey was like, "Hey, Liam, this is Collins." And I was like, "Hey, man, like, nice to meet you." Like, shook his hand. I was like, good job today, whatever. And I'm like, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like I know you, like, I listen to your commentary like all the time, and like plus we play Pokemon Snap together." And I was like, "Yo, like, sorry if that's like annoying, like the commentary part." He's like, "Dude, that's like literally your whole, like, that's the entire reason you're here is to like commentate. So like, how could I possibly be upset with that?" Yeah. Like, that's the general gist of the conversation, or that point of the conversation. Just like, that's what you're here to do. Like, they're there to play the game, we're there to like talk about it. And of course there's like ways to go about saying things that are just just don't be rude, you know what I mean, for the most part. But yeah, so I was like, yeah, if like it ever, like, does it bother you, does it like upset you to be able to hear it? And he's like, you put the headphones on and you kind of can block it out, but no, like, we can hear. And like, he's like, I like listening to your commentary, it's pretty relaxing. And I was like, well, that's good, like, if I'm going for that vibe, for the day. So yeah, no, it's a different experience at pace. But for the first like hour or two is definitely really strange, but then for that last like couple days, you get used to it. And I guess really just like when it cuts back to you, because like when you're like at home, it cuts back to you and it's just your voice. But when it cuts back to you and you're like on camera and like you see yourself on camera, I'm like it's like there's 18,000 people watching me, like, oh my God, and It's different. I felt like it's different event to event, but I felt weirder about doing commentary at GSA at pace than I did to ESA. ESA had the most people, I think. I didn't check the GDQ run. I think it was probably less. But at ESA, I remember looking at the viewer count and it was like 18,000 people. And like,
Holy shit.
Whoa.
I love that though. Like I thrive in that like environment. So to me, that was super fun. Pace was a little bit different because, you know, there's 50 people in the venue.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more online, but like, you know, you're a little more accountable for what you say immediately, I guess, at pace, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. Do you feed off like the crowd's energy and stuff? Because then people are getting excited about random things. They're cheering.
At pace, not really as much
Okay.
because because my blocks, like, honestly, my blocks were like relatively uneventful. I think for the most part, like there were a couple runs finishing carpetless and stuff, and like that was cool. But pace, I was really locked in on like making sure that like, you know, it was my first one. It was my first like, you know, pace. So I really wanted to make sure that I was like, you know, representing in a really positive, like, you know, appropriate way. And like not saying that if you like if you feed off the crowd, that's the case. But I was just a little more like, you know, like locked in, I feel like, to really let like that kind of energy like feed off that kind of energy. I will say that like for like things like ESA, you know, yeah, totally. I think like when the crowd, like when the chat starts buzzing and like, you know, it's really exciting. Like, yeah, like you feel it. You know what I mean? Like me and Wes Dogg, like we both had that same energy where like me and Wes, like we love, like we're like entertainers, you know, like we love to be, because like I was in a band, so like, you know what I mean, and we toured around the country for like, you know, 2 years, and like, yeah, I love that like energy, and so does he. So there's a couple times where me and Wes, like we just like we're eating that up, and then like he's going crazy, and then I'm going crazy, and then like it just like it builds and builds and builds. And I think that we had the best, I think we commentated the best match of all time. I think that it was Weegee versus Kanno, and it was 16 star best of 3, and it went down to the last throw. And I will say that it was the best, not only the best race, the best commentary, the best moment, the most hype of all time. And it had nothing to do with me or Wes specifically. We were just there. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I remember this. This was his like 16-star world championship, right?
Yeah.
That was, I think, the best event that I've ever seen as part of the Mario community.
Yeah,
that was my favorite.
I think it was the best moment. I think it was one of the best moments ever.
Yeah.
And like, it was just, I mean, it was like best of 3, last match, finals, like 2 of the best players in the world. Like, you know, I mean, people talk about, you know, like, not to be like whatever, but I know that people like when me and Wes are together. Like, I know that. Like, you see it in like in pace, like when we're in events together, like people are like, oh my God, Collins and Wes, like this is like such a sick, like, you know, whatever. And actually, fun fact, I was actually at Wes's first ever, I was his co-commentator for his first ever commentary.
Oh, really?
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So you were his first time.
Yeah, it was his first time. I remember a specific moment in CCM where he said something really silly, and he got really like self-conscious about it. And afterward, he asked me about it, and I was like, "Dude, that was so funny. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you were great. Like, what are you talking about?" But yeah, no, like me and Wes, like I love commentating with him because we really like fed off of it. But yeah, I think that moment with Kanno and Weegee was like just the best moment of all time.
It was
an
all-time race. It was such a great race.
And it was down to the throw. Like they threw like at approximately the same time on the third throw. And then like, you know, Weegee having a hit just like a little bit before. And it was just, oh my God. And that was like when 16 star was like hyped too.
Yeah.
Like, that was like like Kanno's like unlimited stream. Yes. Like, you know, like that was like the, like, besides like Aki, like grinding for the 14, like one of the best times for 16 star. So that was like the most I remember like getting hyped up for like a race. Like the chat was buzzing and Wes was yelling and I was yelling and there was guys spinning the thing and it was crazy. It was super cool.
So for people who might be listening to this and they're like, oh man, like this commentary thing sounds great. How would you, as somebody who's been around for a while, like how would you recommend people kind of insert themselves into the commentary scene? Like, do you have any advice for them on what kinds of things they should do, things they should look out for, anything like that?
think first and foremost, like from like the perspective, and most people that actually would try to do commentary and would say this, they're probably very separate groups of people. But you see all the time, how could you get that wrong? How did you not know that like this was 2.5 seconds, not 3 seconds? It's like, dude, I'm saying like I'm ingesting 30,000 like bits of like information at the same time. Like, yes, of course there are gonna be mistakes. And that's the one thing you have to understand is you're gonna say something stupid sometimes, and it's okay. My advice would be if you don't know what you're talking about in that specific moment, just don't say anything. Just don't like throw out a number because like you're gonna get some like fucking asshole like in the chat who's gonna say something really they're gonna say something mean and you're gonna think about it for you're gonna think about it for the rest of the day. Just that's just immediately come off the top of my head. Like in terms of like practical advice, get like a decent microphone or like try to or like put yourself in an environment where like there's not like dogs barking in the background. I'm such a hypocrite. Or like, you know, like, or like where your mom isn't gonna like, you know, don't do it from like a McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like, and I've done commentary with people that were in McDonald's, like not in the parking lot, but like in the physical McDonald's. Like, I'm not gonna name names, but
That's awesome.
I know that he knows because he actually blossomed into a fantastic commentary. I think he's really great now. But there's this guy, there's this kid he's like, I'm in the McDonald's right now. I'm like, get out of McDonald's.
What is
brother.
the thought process there? What is like, oh, I'll grab like a meal while I gotta it calms this match really quickly.
I think he needed. I think what happened was he needed Wi-Fi and he didn't have a vehicle, and his mom like dropped him off at the McDonald's.
Oh
and like,
my
you know what I
goodness.
mean? So he's like in McDonald's. So no shade. Like it was actually really funny. But
That's
like,
so funny.
but like do the commentary in an environment that like you know like you have control over. Have like a decent microphone. You don't need anything crazy, but just like a decent microphone. Of course, have like a solid understanding of like the game, like at least a little bit. And I would say like the biggest thing is like let dead air like be dead air. Like it's okay to not be talking all the time. Like that's totally appropriate. Don't be overly critical. Like if somebody's having a really bad race, like it happens. Like try to highlight the good things. Try to talk about both runners as much as you can. Don't focus on one too much or the guy that's in the lead because it's really easy to do that. And try not to be like super biased. We all have like favorites that we of like runners and stuff and people that we want to win and people that we think are going to win, but like try not to like show that too much. Like try to be like a little bit unbiased or like as unbiased as you can be. That's a lot of like rapid fire, but I would say that's like generally it. And in terms of like actually getting like a commentary slot, don't just like hit up ZS and be like, hey, can I do the grand finals of your like, you know, like, you know what I mean? Because like that happens all the time. Like I know for a fact I've worked with like, I work with GSA regularly. I work with CCG regularly. I get people all the time hitting me up. Hey, do you know blah, blah, blah? Because like they want to do commentary and I don't know if I've ever heard them do it. And it's completely random kids that have never done it before. And it's like, you kind of have to pay your dues a little bit. Don't just expect that you're going to get the grand finals. Don't expect that you're going to get like the best race of all time. Like just do it enough. And trust me, you'll thank yourself later. Like, don't just have your first commentary experience be like, you know, don't luck into like doing a simply tournament because like, then you have like 10,000 people watching you and they will be critical.
Right.
But then you can learn all the things you do wrong to improve for next time when you see everyone just roast you.
If you have the mental capacity to like, you know, like not melt down over like tens of thousands, you know, thousands of kids like freaking out. Because I've seen that. Like that's the thing. Is like I've seen kids come in to do it for the first time and they get ripped to shreds. Oof. And it's like it's not fair and it's not good. Like it's like I don't like that. I don't want that for people. So like do it a couple times, do it a bunch as much as you can, and get good at it. And then people will start to recognize you because you want to be like that person where like they hear your voice and they're like, oh yeah, I remember this guy. Like, yeah, like they're good, you know, or whatever. Like, oh yeah, I remember, like, I feel comforted. Like, get like a style, like figure it out. Like, you know, like, do you want to be like the color guy? Do you want to be super analytical? Do you want to be chill? Do you want to be exciting? Like, what do you want to be? And like, what niche do you want to like fill? Because we have a lot of commentators now. You know, there are plenty of races. There are plenty of tournaments and community events that they need commentary for. So like just volunteer, just hit somebody up and be like, hey, like if you have anything, I'd love to, you know, do it. And most people will say like absolutely, yeah, I need people to do this one or whatever. But then alternatively, don't be discouraged if somebody says, hey man, like I got, you know, I'm full because there's only a certain amount of people and, you know, I gotta, you know, gotta feed the homies. You know what I mean? Like, I gotta
Exactly.
make sure they get the love. So there's a lot of different things that go into it, but yeah, I'd say that's a general rundown, and I might think of some more stuff at some point, but that's kind of what I would say. Is it? And don't get like discouraged. Like I said, if you say something silly, like it happens. Like I've said like really dumb stuff and like to thousands of people. And like,
I have a question on that point. So like
Yeah.
hypothetically, say you're commentating a 120 race and they're in BBH, and you're trying to talk about the first star. I think it's pretty commonly referred to as ghost hunt.
Yeah.
And maybe you accidentally slip up and you don't say hunt. Maybe you throw a little bit of a cut at the beginning of that.
Yeah.
How do you come back from that one? Not asking for any particular reason. No one on this podcast has ever done that.
Well, you got to just own it, and then you'd be like, "No, that's what I meant to say."
Double down.
Like just double down. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, of course.
Bro, I'm
Did I say
Australian.
that? Yes, I did. Of course, I did say that. What are you talking about? Idiot! You stupid moron. You don't call it that. Just gaslight, and just like just girl boss through. Like,
Gaslighting is my favorite way out of any problem you create for yourself.
are you insane? No, it's always been called that.
It's in the handbook.
Bro hasn't been around the community long enough.
You're crazy, dude. Like you have no, you don't even know that. You're insane.
Oh my god. I do want to shift our focus a little bit again. I want to talk about the most recent qualifiers. The second round. You were in the booth for some of these, right?
Yeah. I think I did like 6 hours that weekend or something.
Okay, so you did like a pretty respectable shift there. What were your just overall biggest takeaways from the performance, from how people did, and from kind of where the standings sit now?
Yeah, so I think I really like the idea of some like an underdog like going and switching things up a little bit. I think everybody does. That's my one thing about 120 that I think is tough. Is it 16 star? You can make a mistake and lose. Totally possible. The best person doesn't always win 16 star. The best person doesn't always win 70 star. If your name's Puncation, it's more than likely that you've won. But like not always. You know what I mean? Like when in these one-on-one races I'm talking about.
Right.
The thing about the LTA is that like it'll probably eventually average out. Like they take the average run of each runner, subtract a minute, maybe more, a minute and a half. And that's probably how it's going to end up. I love the idea of like a Gothic Logic or like a Kanno, like breaking in to the top 7 and qualifying and being able to go. I think it's really interesting. And this isn't about last weekend specifically, but last weekend kind of solidified. We know that Liam is not going to be participating. We know that Simply's not going to be participating at Pace. I don't know if they've said anything officially, but we're pretty aware of this.
At this point, I mean, I don't even think they could qualify because 7th place right now is 19 points. So even if one of them wins it, we just need a point from everyone else and
yeah,
they're out.
Yeah. So it's impossible essentially. So, I really like the idea of that. Because it's tough to balance because you want somebody new, you want new people in there to switch things up, but you also want the best representation of like the most skill, because like this is really like, if you think about it, the most prestigious like tournament,
Yes.
in Super Mario 64. So like you don't want to have people that could win, not because like Liam could totally win, like Simply could totally win, like especially with like the work they've been putting in, like it's totally possible. So it's tough. Like I said, I really like Gothic Logic. I like his chances. I like the idea of Kanno going down, and I like the idea of Kanno going down, one, because I think he's just an OG, and two, I really like the idea of more like Japanese runners like integrating within the community. My heart says that probably won't happen. We'll probably get more similarly like a Blue Bob over like a Gothic and a Kanno, which is fine because I really like Blue Bob too. And that's the thing too, is like in this community, it's like, it's tough. It's not like we're talking about NFL players, you know what I mean? Like we're friends with all these people.
Right.
Like, I want them all to succeed. So, I think it goes without saying, I think Weegee probably takes it. Like just the next event. I don't think that's really a motivated Weegee is like unlike anything we've ever seen, ever. You know, I think obviously I think my main takeaway is that I would love for somebody like an outsider, quote unquote, to make it in.
Yeah.
And maybe that doesn't mean winning, but at least means like, you know, making headway, because we've seen people not finish runs at pace. Like, you know what I mean? Like just at all.
Yeah.
So like I would love for someone, and I think we're gonna start to see as time goes on, we'll slowly start to see like the cheeses and the simplies and the Liams slowly start to phase out. Maybe even Weegee. You know what I mean? Like I think we're gonna see them slowly start to drop out, because I've had conversations with like those types of runners, and they know that like their prime, like quote unquote, is kind of like it's over. And like, do you want to retire like gracefully, or do you want to just like, you know, kind of get kicked out?
Yeah.
And that's like, it's weird to talk about it like that, but I mean, there's money on the line, you know, there's a lot on the line here. So it's like, and there's like legacy too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, that if you're like at one point the best in the world, like that's not going to be forever. So I don't think it's going to happen this year and not next year, but maybe the year after. I think we're going to see almost an entire shift of like the generation. I think the cheeses and, you know, and the simplies and the Liams, I don't, are they going to continue? I think you're going to have like Callies, you know, your Gothics, you know, Blue Bob, which is, it's not that Blue Bob isn't OG is like anybody else, but he's making that kind of like resurgence in a way. But like your Beeves, like your Savzanders, you know, these guys who are hungry and motivated, that are gonna put in more time. Like they're gonna put in more time.
Yeah.
And they're gonna catch up eventually, because it's all about that time that you put in. And like Callie's on his way. You know, we've seen this. Beeve is on his way. Sabzander, I think, will probably be in contention for record at some point within the next probably 2 to 3 years. If Sabzander sticks with it, I think that within probably 2 years he will be at that 138 level, give or take. I think there are going to be runners like, you know, Marlene, you know, Parsi. You know, Parsi's been dropping a ton of stage RTAs.
Yeah.
I think more and more, as the longer we go, people are going to continue to be more and more motivated. And I just think it's unsustainable as someone who's been playing the game for 10 years to maintain that motivation for another 5. So I think we're going to start to see like the torch being passed eventually. And I think it's starting now. But just wait. I wouldn't be surprised if in 3 years at pace, it's almost a completely different top 7, which I think would be really interesting. That's my hope also, because I don't want to be involved in a game where like it's very obvious who goes in and wins.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I do think there's something to be said for, you know, we know at this, like coming into this pace, it was pretty easy call to see who the top 4 qualifiers were going to be. I don't think there's any surprise that right now sitting atop the standings, we have Weegee, Cheese, Punke, and Callie. And it, you know, the real like variable going into this last qualifier is this 5th through 8th place. We have 4 people competing for the final 3 spots, really. But it would be fun. I mean, the harder it is to qualify, the more mystery there is going in. I think the more excitement there is for a viewer. But at the same time, you don't want to just discard, you know, there's a reason that Weegee's at the top of the game, because his skill right now is, you know, as good as it's better than anyone. His runs, he has 2 136s. He has the best live event time ever. He has the world record. So you want to reward somebody who's at that point, but you also kind of want that mystery, and you want, you know, that, like you said, the chaos element with in a 70-star race, like the best player isn't always going to win, and that does provide some excitement.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like I said, I think for now, like we're going to continue to see like the status quo being sort of upheld. And I like that, because it rewards people that put in the time, of course. But I am excited, alternatively, to see, you know, the Beeves, the Savzanders, you know,
the new blood.
Say again?
The new blood.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I'm excited. I'm excited to see that myself. And who knows? The next Liam could be like just booting up the game tomorrow. You know, like that's kind of how Savzander was. I mean, I heard about this kid from Romania who was like super young, but like really good at Wind Waker HD, and he got a 146 in like 5 months. That's and crazy. I was like, okay, like that's kind of insane. Why is nobody talking about this kid? And then I saw him play, and I was like, oh yeah, he's actually really, really good, but he's on emulator. And then he takes like 2-3 months off to switch from emulator to N64, doesn't get his stuff for a while, controller's cooked, can't play at all. Takes like a month, and then like to grind from emulator to console, and then gets a 141 with a on a 139 pace, miss carpetless 12. Like, why is nobody talking about this kid?
Yeah.
Insane.
Like for real? Like, are we gonna pretend that this isn't like one of the most insane like come up since Liam, since like Cheese? You know, like, I mean, I remember when people were talking about Liam like that. You know what I mean? And now it's like he's one of the greatest. So it's like I think we're gonna start to see like, you know, him specifically, but then like I said, Beeve is another one. Gothic Logic, like Blue Bob's starting to make waves too again. Blue Bob's been a mainstay for a while, but he did take that time off. But yeah, no, it'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, Bob's definitely gonna come in that 7th spot, not Gothic Zias. So just keep that. That's who we have on our predictions. I have Bob as my final qualifier. Zias has Gothic.
I mean, it's so close to either, and I'm leaving out Beast Assassin here too. But Beast Assassin's only going to get better as time goes on.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's inevitable, and he's already proven that he can qualify, and so is Blue Bob.
Yeah.
You know, it just comes down to like who shows up to play.
I feel like it's to your. I mean, honestly, not even talking about Beast that much in this discussion is a testament to how far he's come, because he's in the 5th spot right now with 20 points. Like he's sitting in a really comfortable spot to qualify, and it's almost now it's like, yeah, we expect Beast to qualify, which is like, that's huge. I mean, a year ago I feel like was kind of his breaking out onto the scene, and now look at where he is, just a year later.
Dude, he's really, really good.
He's sick.
He's super consistent, and yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys that just came off of a hiatus and just like immediately PB'd. I think more people should be doing that personally, taking breaks and coming back, because it really does like help your most of this game is it's like the time you put in, but it's that mental like wherewithal.
Right. So I guess just referencing this past round of qualifiers, was there anybody maybe outside of the top 7, maybe within the top 7, but is there anyone that you're kind of looking at that impressed you the most just based on their performance? Anybody that you can think of off the top of your head?
Yeah,
impressed
like I said,
or surprised or anything like that?
Yeah, like Sabzander, of course. Like I was just talking about. It's kind of a meme. It's kind of memed out at this point, but I really think Jesus is like on a crazy tear.
Insane right now.
Yeah, like we've always been approximately the same level, and he just continues to get better and better. I haven't played for like 2 months probably at this point. But he just keeps practicing and keeps playing and continues to do really, really well. So that was impressive to me. That was really impressive. Even though he wasn't, he's not really in any sort of contention to like qualify or anything like that. But I was very impressed with his ability to play very consistently. Beeve is another player that I think is really pretty underrated. As I said, Failman Flow is amazing, like excellent, like super good fundamental player. And then Raisin too, to come off of emulator and do as well as he did was great. I think Failman, Flow, and Raisin are two other people that we gotta keep an eye on as well.
Yeah.
So I would say Raisin, Failman, Flow as my what I didn't discuss previously in terms of being impressed and being like, look at them in the future. And then my like surprise and like good for him was Jesus. I think Jesus, if he keeps grinding, could do very well. So yeah, those are my big ones for sure that I was really impressed with for sure. But Flow is great, Raisin is great. Like nothing but improvement from here on out. I think we're gonna see out of them.
Well, Collins, this has been awesome so far. We do have one final question for you. We've asked this question to everyone so far. Are you familiar with the term Mount Rushmore?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your Mount Rushmore of SM64 stars?
Oh, stars? I thought you were going to say players. I was like, oh, man.
We get that reaction, that verbatim, that exact reaction every time. And now it's the point where like saying that, I was just watching Zias to watch his reaction when you were like, oh, not players.
Okay. So this is a tough one. I've been asked this before. I'm actually going to pull up some of the stars because I really think that it's tough to like recall all of them specifically.
Yeah.
So I think obviously I'm a 120 player. I haven't done 16 in years. I did 70 as I did one no reset in 70 in the past couple of years. Let's see. I want to say that my in no particular order, I guess. I think can I count, do 100 coin stars count as 1 star or they count as 2?
Count them as
Like,
1.
Yeah, we can count as 1.
Okay. I think HMC 100 is a
Love
classic.
that.
I think it's a
Yes.
classic. It's got everything. It's got movement. It's got unique movement, which is a big thing for me. It's got unique movement. It has really interesting. It has a BLJ. Obviously, it has interesting routing, and you go all over the map. I love seeing the whole map. That's why I like 120.
And it's got like a big RNG component, which like maybe that's not a pro, but it is a little unique because not some 100 coin stars have them, not all of them. But it's that
Yeah.
blue coin RNG that like is a point. I mean, it's everyone talks about it when the runner's at that point.
It makes it fun.
Yeah.
Because it's not like SL 100 where like you are so like the SL 100 RNG can ruin your run, but like HMC 100 it's not going to ruin the run. Like you know what I mean? Like the blue one RNG. So I'd say HMC 100 is a big one. DDD 100 I think it's such a classic star. Such a classic 120 star. I would say that's up there for me as well. JRB I can't because I'm thinking like for me like 120 is like the epitome of the game for me. It's like the pinnacle, you know what I mean? And so JRB I think you have to include the ship clip star. I think it's really fun. I know some people don't like it and it's kind of like boring or whatever, but swimming is really hard. So I think that's my 3. And what is there 5 on Mount Rushmore?
4. You got one more.
I got one more.
JRB is I feel like the hottest take we've had so far. We haven't seen a JRB star appear on anyone's Mount Rushmore.
Really?
Yeah.
I think JRB is like such a it's the 120. Like it's the only time, it's the only time you're doing it. So I kind of like that.
As a 16 guy, I feel like I know nothing about JRB. JRB is just huge mystery to me.
It's really fun. It's such I think that the fact that it's neglected in the other categories makes it more fun to me.
Yeah.
Man, and then I'd say my last one. This is maybe sort of controversial, but I have to say it. THI Secrets. I really like that star.
Wow. THI Secrets.
I really like that star. I think it's really fun.
I think it's a great call. I think THI Secrets is a great star.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's like got lots of cool movement. Like it's really fast.
Yeah.
It's to the point, and it's an interesting star. I like that one.
I like that too in comparison to the rest of your stars. The other ones are all longer stars. And then THI is like a really like compact, quick. I don't know. I just think it's it's different than the other ones you chose, but I like it a lot.
Yeah. I try not to choose all 100 coin because if I could, I probably would. I really like 100 coin stars. I think they're super fun.
I mean, the movement in 100 coin stars is unrivaled. Like it's the height of like actually analyzing technical gameplay.
Yeah, no, 100%. But yeah, I think that's maybe it'll change, but I think for the most part, honorable mention, shout out TTM Monkey Star.
Sure.
Really fun, but yeah, I mean there's 120 of them. I don't know, they're all fun.
There's a lot of good stars. The game, as much as we hate it and we rage and we get tilted, the game's pretty sweet.
And that's why we're still playing it like 25 years later.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Zeus, do you have any final questions, final points?
You touched on this very briefly in the beginning when we were talking about commentary. You mentioned you were in a band.
Me?
Give us a little background on that. Maybe what was it? What kind of music did you guys play? Like, what was the touring happening? Like, what was that?
So you can kind of see behind me, like I have some music stuff. I don't really play music anymore. I haven't played it for a long time, but it used to be like something that I would do a lot. I actually used to play music on stream a lot. I've been in a ton of bands, but this band that I was in for actually all of Mario since I joined the community was called Closure. Like Midwest emo, like punk sort of vibes, like think like American football, like Saves the Day, like type stuff. Like Gio probably like remembers like Get Up Kids and like like those kind of bands. So those like late 90s like inspo sort of bands. So that's what we did. Yeah, no, we toured all over the place. Like that was like pre-pandemic, like all we did. Like I would just like we'd play shows, go on tour, and then I'd come home and play Mario. That was it. And I work like a shitty part-time job, you know, to like cover the rest of the bills, but it was Mario, Pokemon Snap, writing music, recording music, and then I toured, and then that was pretty much it for a while. So it was good times,
That's
and then
kinda
of course
sick.
pandemic hit. So like it's just like I gotta get like a real job now. So it's been a while, but that's what we did, and I still have like I appreciate the memories of it, you know, and I like definitely appreciate it for what it was. I was lucky to be able to do it for as long as I did, but you know, I obviously, you know, I don't know if he's still there. Yeah, you can see like now I'm just kind of chill. I got a couple dogs, you know.
I love that.
I work from home, so it's a lot more chill. I like being here and not having to travel for work all the time.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
What is it? Is the band still together? Has everyone kind of gone their separate ways?
Nah, we ended it. Like we put out a record. We got signed to like a cool label, and they put out like vinyl and merch, and
Wow.
That's sick.
we did all the stuff you want to do, and then yeah, it was just a really weird time. Like the pandemic, like you know, it's not really a secret if you've been around Mario. Like I definitely struggled a lot like during that like time period because it was like I love this thing and now it's gone and like what am I supposed to do? And just a bunch of like other things that I feel like everybody during the pandemic, like if all these issues that we had that we were able to ignore, we were no longer able to ignore now when we were stuck inside of our house all day. So for me, like it just kind of like, you know, compiled and really like bubbled up, and it just ended up being this like, nope, I'm done with music. I'm never doing it again. Like, you know, and now I have a slightly more healthy relationship. I'll pick up a guitar every so often, not that much, you know.
Yeah.
But there was a point where I didn't play music at all. I didn't listen to music at all. I didn't like play music at all. I didn't talk about it. I never wanted to think about it. Just had a really weird relationship with it, but now I mean it's a little bit different, of course. Like I said, I appreciate it for what it was, and yeah, we did all the cool stuff, but it's a lot of pressure. I don't know. I just hated that, like having to talk to people all the time, like you know, kids like messaging on Instagram all the time, being like, hey, like you know, I love your music, you saved my life, and like all this crazy stuff, and you're like, dude, that's like a lot of pressure. And then you have a label like, hey, we need to record a music video like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I was just like, oh my god, like this is like way more than I feel like, because I wanted that my whole life. Like that was what I thought I wanted. Like from when I was a really young kid, I was like, I want to be in a famous band. Like I don't even care what I play, but I just want to be like touring all the time, and I want kids to know all the words of my songs. And then it's like, you know, like monkey paw like curls, you know what I mean? It's just like you get that, but you're also like depressed as fuck, like and super anxious about it. And so yeah, it was weird, but I still do like, you know, I'll get people in my Twitch chat and stuff like, hey, a big Closure fan, like I didn't know you were on Twitch, I didn't know you played Mario. There's a weird amount of overlap between Midwest emo fans and speedrunning. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah, my first ever label that we signed to, the owner, his name is Alex. He's really cool. He loves speedrunning. Like he loves speedrunning. So like he always still pops up, and there's just a bunch of people that like still like, yeah, they just love it. Like when I got banned on Twitch, not that long ago, or a couple months or whatever it was.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that were like vouching for me were like Midwest emo guys that like had a lot of pull, like, you know, they stream on Twitch too. So yeah, it's cool.
That's so funny. I would never have guessed that there was that much, like the Venn diagram was that much overlapping.
It's the mental illness.
There you go. There's the commonality, right?
Yeah, that's how we'll put that as the closer.
Yeah, there you go. Collins, thank you so much. It's been a blast to have you on. Appreciate it. Can't wait to hear you in the booth for round 3 qualifiers and then finals and pace, right?
I'll be there. I'm super excited. I got my room.
Go.
Me and Punk are rooming together.
Let's go.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it'll be an experience to be with Punk A for a week straight.
I love that.
So I'm looking. I mean, me and him have been like really tight for years. So I'm super stoked. But yeah, I'll be there doing commentary. You know, so I'm looking forward to seeing everybody hanging out. And like last one was amazing. I think this one's gonna be even better. So yeah, I'm super stoked.
Can't wait. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Collins.
Thanks for having me on.
Bye.